So for this pattern, we'll be making use of this yarn. This is the yarn I described in the video, or in the pattern rather, sorry. Patterns inspired. This is the weight, and you can see this is 75% acrylic, 25% wool yarn. So this is what we'll be making use of. This is the brand, or this is the yarn I used for this pattern. And like I said in the pattern, we'll be making use of 2. So we'll be crocheting with 2 like this. Okay, so when I say 2, this is what I mean. Instead of crocheting with just 1 strand, you join both of them, and we'll be making use of both strands like this together. I'm someone that likes sketches. I use sketches a lot for most of my work. I sketch, then I dimension, and I start working. So I'm just going to be using this sketch. This is one of the sketches you'll find in the pattern. So I'm just going to be using this sketch to explain. So this video has different things I'll be explaining in this video. I'll be explaining what I mean by join, when I say join this to this, and I'll be explaining what I mean by 1 row, 1.5 row, and how to make like 3 sections, which I explained already in the pattern. But for people that might have a bit of problem understanding what I explained there, I hope this video helps clear things out. Okay, for this short video, I'll just make this part. I'll make this part, and maybe this part, and just show how I join. Then I'll also make this part to show you how you make this. I also explain it in the pattern, but this video helps show it very well. I'll also be explaining how I made this part and how you join it. So this part here is just basically the 2 sides at the back that will join for the long handle for carrying the backpack. So that's what these 2 are. I'll be making 2 of it. And don't forget, I told you, when you see where I wrote ×2, something like this, ×2, that means I'm making 2 of this. This is just 1, this is just 1, this is 1, this is 1. But these are the different numbers to know which is which. So this is part 1, this is part 2, we're making 2 of this. This is part 3, this is part 4. These are some of the materials or some of the tools we'll be making use of. So obviously we'll be making use of the zipper. I'll be showing how or the way you can add the zipper to the backpack. For adjusting of the bag, if you look at the handle, like the long handles, I used these. You can use a lot of other things. You can use something like this. Talking about the needles, these were some of the things I meant. Like if you look at these have big eyes that will enable our yarn to fit through. So you can use stuff like this. This is way easier sewing with, but I prefer sewing up mine with needles like this. Okay, to get started, I'll be explaining what I mean by 1 row, 1.5 row, how to count the rows basically. So let me just get started and do this. So now I'm just going to make, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so I just made 15 chains right now. And for the counting, like when I said, like in the pattern, when I drew the figure where I showed when you move from here to A and from A back to B, that is 1 row. And when you just move 1 direction, that is half a row. So currently just making these chains, this is already half a row. So when I turn my work, and most times in the pattern when I write make this number of chains, like for example I just made I think 15 chains. When I say make 15 chains and walk up till 5 rows or 10 rows or 15 rows or how many rows, this is what I mean. So for right now I just made 15 chains, and I'm going to just go back. I'm not turning my work. I'm just, after making the 15 chains, I still have my work this way, and I just go back into the last chain I made and work my way back. So, and I'm working for this pattern, we're just working single crochets. So we're not working any other type. We're not working double, half double, treble, and any other thing. So just single crochets. So this is me working my way back now. Okay, so I just worked my way back this way, and if you can remember, I started my single crochets from here. This is what is showing it. I started my chains from here. I walked all the way to this place and I came back. So this makes one row. So if you turn and walk this way, you can see this is one row. So now to continue further, and don't forget to do this so that you have like straight edges as well. After working my way into the last chain I have here, I'm going to chain one, turn my work, and then walk from the first opening, or should I just call this opening, back. So I'm just going to turn my work and walk all the way back. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of my row, and I just have one more single crochet to walk into this last space, and I just walked my last single crochet into that space. So now if you see, we started from here, we went 1, 2, that was one row, then we came back 1. So currently I have 1.5 rows. So if you notice from this, you can see I have this place, then I have like this line that looks like it's separating this big part and this small part. So currently this is 1 row and this is 1.5 row, or this is half row rather. So 1 plus half. So entirely in total what I have now is 1.5 rows. So I walked from here to here, came back here, that was 1 row. Then from here I went back to here, which is where we currently are now. So this is 1.5 row. So I'm going to work a few rows up and come back so that it will be more visible, it will be clearer for you guys to understand what I mean. Okay guys, so I've worked up a few rows, and as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4.5 rows. So it's more clear, it's way better to see this now when you walk up a few rows compared to when we started. So now you can see this is 1 row, this is 2 rows, this is 3 rows, this is from here 4 rows. Then I'm currently working 4.5 rows. Once I get to this place, to be 4.5 rows, come back, it will be 5 rows. So this is how I walk and count my rows. And if you look at the back, I take this as the front part, because if you look at the back, you see that starting from the bottom is a bit, you can still count it, but it's a bit, let me just say, stressful. But it's way easier counting this way when you can easily see the rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So now I'm going to show you how to make the front pouch, or the front part of the bag, the small parts with the buckles, the gold buckles, or whatever kind of buckles you want to use. So I'll be showing how to make this part, and basically just this triangle. So this is just normal triangle, or normal way of working triangle, but I'll show how I do it, and I hope that will make it easier for you guys. Okay, so most times in the pattern, when I want you to make the triangle, or when I want you to make section 4, I normally say reduce from 4.5 making this, or reduce from 5.5 making this. So for example, now if we were working on this and I said reduce from 4.5 making 5, now you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're currently working 4.5. So if I said reduce from 4.5, I just mean when you get to the end. So I'm going to work this 4.5 and get to the end. So currently we have 4.5 rows now. So when I say reduce from 4.5 making 5, this is what I mean. For the triangle, this is how we work. This is how I work the triangle for the front part, for the front cover of the bag. So this is 4.5, and as usual, I will chain 1, turn, and when I turn for working the triangle, this is what I do. I skip the first space and single crochet in the next one and continue down. So normally when I turn, if I were just working up, if I were just working my way up, I'll just start with this first space. But now for working the triangle, for working this triangle, I'm going to skip the first space and single crochet in the next one. So skip this first one, single crochet in the next one. And when I get to the end as well, I'm going to skip the space before the last one and single crochet in the last one. So that is what I do, and I keep going up that way. So I'm just going to show you. So starting now, I'm going to skip this and single crochet in the next one. After that, I'll single crochet in the one after that. So I just keep on single crocheting and going as usual. So I'll meet you guys when I have just 2 spaces left. So I'm at the end right now and I have 2 spaces left. So I have this and I have this. I have this and I have this. So normally I'll single crochet, chain 1, turn. But since we are making this triangle, I skipped the first chain here, or the first space here, single crocheted in the next one and continued. So getting to the end, I will skip the one before the last one, which is this one, and single crochet in the last one. That is what I just did. And as usual, I will chain 1, turn my work, and as usual again, I'll skip this first space, single crochet in the next one, continue working my way down. So I've single crocheted, and as usual again, getting to this end, I have 2 spaces left, and as usual, I'm going to skip the space before the last one, and I'll single crochet in the last one. Chain 1, turn, and continue the same thing. Skip the first one, single crochet into the next one, and I'll keep going like that till I have the number of rows I need. And I'll do that and I'll come back to show you guys how this stuff looks. But before I move on, for section 4, we have the same thing. This is the same thing you are going to do, but for section 4, I told you to chain 27, then make some rows up. And for basically for section 4, for sections 4 here, you're just going to make 2 rows of doing this. So if you can see now, if you count, before we started from 4.5, that's why we started all this process. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, and we're about making 6 rows. But for section 4, I told you to start from 17.5, which is 17.5 rows, and just work up to 19.5 rows. And if you do that, do exactly what I did here, you see that we just have this curved edge here and this curved edge here. So if you just do a bit of it towards the end, that's when you just get this curved edge and this curved edge, and that's all we are doing for the section 4. But then for this one now, for this part, we work a bit more rows up to get, although it won't look exactly like this, my drawing is a bit horrible, I'm sorry for that, or my sketching rather. So but then it will give us what we need. So it just depends on how much you work. So for section 4, we just work a bit and it gives us this curved edge and how the bag looks. And for this part 3, we'll do a bit more rows going up, and it will give us something a bit like this, although it won't really look like this, but to give us something a bit like this. And I still call it triangle because it's not just give the curved edge, to give us something a bit like this. So I'll work up a few more rows, and I think I said start from 4.5 and work up to 8 rows. So I'll try to work up to 8 rows to show you guys what it looks like, then we'll take it off from there. Okay guys, so I've worked up a few rows, and currently I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 rows. So this is what I have now, and when you're working yours, this is what yours is going to look like, the triangle stuff I was saying, or the curved stuff, whatever you want to call it. So this is what I have now, and most times just to end, you end however you want to end. Me, I just prefer chaining 1. Some people don't chain 1. Then with my needle, I like pass this through. So at the end, for this one, we'll have something like this. And for section 4, I already told you how you do it. You are basically doing the same thing. So when I say reduce in the pattern to have either the curved edge or this This is what I mean. So when you're done, you're going to have something like this. For the buckle, you could use something like this, whatever you prefer. So you could use something like this. So for this is what you're going to have on this part 1, and this is what you're going to have on this part 3, which is what you just made. So this goes here. So depending on the kind of one you have, normally for this one, I'll need to open this and fix it here. So this is what I have for the front part, and this one is what goes on this part. So our advice when you are fixing this, you fix this one first after attaching everything or joining everything like I showed you, like I'm going to show you, before you start putting this. Or if you put this first, then attach this before you put this. So it depends on you, but I prefer you put this first. So when you're then fixing everything, and after you can then put this last on this one, something like this. Let me say this one is already attached. You then put it and fix it properly, and it looks way better and it fits way better. So now I'm going to go on ahead and go behind the camera and make a few of these. Probably I'll just make one of this, just to show you what I mean by join. When I say, like most of the times in the pattern, I used join. For example, I'll say join part 1 and part 4, or join what you already have to the 2 sides of part 2 and stuff like that. So whenever I say join, this is what I mean. For example, this one I said join part 1 and part 4, and I colored this part. So that means this is how it should look when you're done joining it. So for example, let's say, okay, these two are the same. I crochet 2 of the same thing, but it's still, I'm still going to explain it. This explanation will still be the same. So whenever I say join, always join from the right side. This is what I take as the right side. And if you look at the back, look at how this part starts. You can't really count a row. This is 1.5 rows here. So I take this as the wrong side. I take this as the right side. So whenever you're joining, you join the right sides facing out and the wrong sides facing each other. So this is what I mean. For example, if this was part 1 and I wanted to join part 1 to this other one, let's say the second one is part 4. So I have part 1, part 4, and I want to join both of them, and I want to have a final look that looks like this. This is the right side of part 1. I have it. This is also the right side of part 1. So I have my row starting from here going up. So I'm going to join right sides facing out and wrong sides facing each other. So if I turn this over, this is the wrong side of part 4, and if I turn this over, this is the wrong side of part 1. So I put them this way. With my threaded needle, I stitch from this side going through both of them, and I stitch all the way down. So this is how I stitch it. I stitch from this side all the way down, and which is this part, or this shaded part I have here. So when you're done stitching it, if I were to have stitched this, because I'm not going to stitch this on camera, if I were to have stitched this, I'm going to have something that looks like this, which if you turn it this way is exactly what I sketched here. So I put the 2 wrong sides. This is the wrong side, and under here is the wrong side, stitched on this side, which is the colored parts I showed here, or I'm showing here rather. The colored parts I'm showing here. So when I'm done stitching, I'll have something that looks like this. That is all. That is what I mean by join. Now, for the part which I called section 7, I told you that you need to crochet from one end to the other end and back to make 1 row, then go back to make 1.5 rows. So just know when you crochet from one end to another end, that is half a row. Then when you crochet from that same end, and don't forget to chain as you get to the end of the row. When you crochet from that same edge back to the other way, that's 1 row. And for section 7, I said you should make 1.5 rows. So, and I said when you look at it, you have spaces in between. So Okay, I'm just going to try to do something on camera. I have camera here for you guys to understand what I mean by that. So for section 7, after joining the sides of section 7, you're going to have, let's say I joined from here to here, so now I have this space free from this edge to this edge, and I'm going to crochet from here going the way around to this edge. So for this one, you just need to take a bit of time and gradually do it. You don't need to rush, because if you rush, you might end up getting something that looks a bit wobbly or something that does not look like you would like. So you just need to, like, if I'm being honest, while crocheting, you just need to have a bit of patience, that's all. So if you look at the edges, you can see, let me bring this a bit closer. You can see we have some spaces in between, and they are even, just going around. And even if yours don't look even, that's fine. But as long as you can see these spaces going around till the edge, the end of where you want, or the end of where you need. So I'm working on this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th row. So I'm starting from the end of the 4th row here to this other end. So I'm going to be crocheting in these spaces, same thing like we did before. Single crochet, you start up your single crochet. All I did was just put my hook inside and drag my chain, put my hook inside and drag my yarn out. This is still a bit loose, so to tighten it, I chain 1, and now I'm ready to go. So I'm going to work from this edge to this edge. I'm basically just working in those spaces I find across till the end, or till the edge of where I need. So I've worked my single crochets from this edge to this edge. Don't forget you're working on, for this example, but in your pattern you see where you're working on. So for this example I'm working on this part. So I started from this edge of row 4 till this edge of row 4. And please, when you're doing this section 7, you'll be doing this when you've already done joining all the parts of the bag together, and you have the parts A and B already joined together, and then you have the part C. So as you're working it, always start from the right side, like I normally say. So this is the right side. So if I had joined this to my bag, let me say for example, I had joined everything will look something like this. So I'm working from, and this is the right side facing out. These are the wrong sides inside. All the wrong sides are always inside. So I work from this side to this side. So when you do it this way, you have this curve, like if you see, you have this curve that is going inside, which gives the bag that curve to look inside. Because if you work it the other way, this is your right side and you're just coming out this way, which is not what we want. So you're meant to work it this other way, and the curve goes inside, and this is what we want. So now I just worked from here to here, which is half a row. So you're meant to work 1.5 rows. So that means you work from here to here, half a row, from here back 1 row, and from here back to this place. So that is 1.5 row. So that is what you do for the 2 section 7s you have. Just work like that for the 2 sides, and that's all you need to do for section 7. Now to work the part where I call the lower handle, which is these 2 sections at the back here, which is this one, and which is where we'll be adding this buckle stuff for the adjustments of the bag. So I will be adding this buckle in this part. So in the pattern, I give you how many, or the number of rows you need to work for this, and then work it up, reducing the same way I've already showed previously or earlier on in the video. And you're going to work up till you have just the tip. So I already did something like that, which is what I have here. You're going to work up till you just have one single crochet like this. So now you can see I worked up till I had just the tip, the same way I worked everything like I showed before. So now at the tip, I think I said for example, you should make 4 chains back. So if you are to make 4 chains back, the same thing like I normally say, single crochet, And depending on the side of the bag you are doing, you can start, or you can walk down this way, walk in 4 spaces. When I say walk 4 chains back, or walk 4 rows, 4 chains back, I just mean you should walk into 4 spaces, either this side or this side. But most times I prefer walking this side because it's easier when I'm at this place, just to turn this way and walk 4 chains back. And don't forget what I told you, always single crochet, always chain, then start walking, because it's more like we are at the edge, or we are at the tip, and we are at the end of this particular row. So we want to walk down this way now. We can no longer walk up, but now we are walking down this way. And walking down this way is what is going to give us this part, this second part, this number 2 part I have here. So now if I were to walk down this way, I'm going to have something like this. Chain 1, 1, and you can see I'm carrying the extra yarn, so I don't have a lot of yarn hanging around while walking. 2, 3. Okay, let me just do 3. Depending on the size of the buckle you have, I would advise it should be the same size. Okay, I'll do 4. Let me do 4 just to show you what I mean. Because if you do 3, it will still fit. If you do 4, it will fit a bit more better, and it will be a bit more stiff. So it will just hold it properly, like you can see. So I just walked 4 chains back, chain, turn, walk 4 going back. 2, 3, 4. Now if you notice, I still have 1 here. So depending on how you walk it, I did this this way just to show you guys. So if we started and we didn't chain 1, we could have exactly 4, but since I chained 1, I have an extra 1. So you could do it this way, or let me go back to the top. Or when you're here, you could chain 1 and just walk 3 into 3 spaces. 2, 3. Then chain, turn your walk. 1, 2, 3, 4. So whichever way is comfortable for you, or whichever way you prefer, you do it that way. So the first time I chained 1, walked 4 chains, and just walked 4 chains back. But in reality, I had 5, which gave me a little bump on this edge. So if you prefer having something like that, you can take that route and walk it that way. But when you're walking back, just make sure you walk into only 4 and keep on going with 4. Because if you walk into 5, it becomes a bit bigger. But then if you do what I just did now, chain 1, walk just 3, then come back with 4, which is what I just did, and keep on going with 4, then that is fine as well. So if I walk this a bit higher, just ignore the size of this part because it's not as big as this one. So imagine I started from something like this. So I just have this going up to the tip, and now I'm walking this part, which is where I have now. So I'm going to work this a few more chains up so that you see how the final stuff is meant to look like. So I just walked a few rows up, and if you see, I have 1, 2, 3 and a half. So in the pattern is shown, or you are told how many rows you're meant to walk up. So when you're done walking up the number of rows you're meant to walk up, that's when you then add this. And how I showed this here, if you look at this now, this is what I have for this one. And if you do the same thing, you just need to just turn it over, and you have the same thing on the other side, which is for this one. And the place, or when I said join this part to this, I colored this place, which is the edge here, which is where I meant to join. So for example, if I were to join this one, to this section 4, this section 4, if I joining this one, which is this, since I'm keeping it this way, I'm keeping it this way to look like this one, and I'm joining it to this section 4. Let's say, for example, this is section 4, and I'm joining this to it. This is the part I colored. So you just need to like put it, the distance from the ground, which you prefer, distance from the side, which you prefer. I didn't give any specific distance because I believe everyone like will have their preference of how they want it to look like. So I left that open. So depending on the kind of space or distance you want from the edge here, you can leave it. You can leave like 1 row, 2 rows, depending on you, or depending on what you like. Same thing with this bottom part. So keep it this way. This is both of them. Then with your needle, stitch just this part. So when you're done stitching, it will look like this. Just this one here. And that is all for this part and this. And for the final part of the bag, we have the zipper. So let me just use this to give an example. So you're going to have, when you're done fixing and joining everything as I showed in the pattern, you have something like this, and the other part like behind it. Let me just use this, although this does not really show exactly what I mean. We're going to have 2 parts facing each other, something like this, then with the small space in between. That is after you're done making your section 7. So for the zipper is, you need to take a bit, like you need to have patience while joining the zipper as well. So for joining of the zipper, you just need to start from the edge or the end of where you have the spacing. The zipper goes in between everything this way, goes in between everything. So you have something like this at the end. So I advise you start from one end. You can, like, to make it easier for you to sew or to attach, you need to do this with your needle. So you need to hand stitch this. So you're going to like put the zipper this way. Like if you see, I opened it. Put the zipper this way. You can start with 1/2. You need to start with 1/2. Put the zipper this way and stitch it inside. So you're going to stitch it going this way, this way, this way. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going till you get to this part. So you're going to have this part already stitched. Then you do the same thing for the back. Stitch inside, going this way and this way. So at the end you have something that closes up and looks like this. So that's all. I hope this video helped you guys understand most of what I explained in the pattern. And thank you so much for buying the pattern. Thank you so much for wanting to make this. And I really can't wait to see what you guys create. And whenever you're done creating something, whenever you make something, please tag me so I can post you and share you on my story as well, and congratulate you for following and making a wonderful bag as I did. Thank you guys so much. And please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.